An oneirogen is known as a supplement that is used to create or enhance dreaming. Cultures from all around the world have different practices that they've used to tap into their ancestral knowledge and create dreamlike states of consciousness, and a lot of them involved rituals that used different herbs and supplements that you can still use today to enhance your dreams. Today I'm talking to my friend Jack, who is an herbalist and he's also a lucid dreamer, so what a cool combination, and I'm really honored that he decided to come back on the Dream World podcast for the second time. So welcome, Jack.
Thank you so much for having me, Amina. Yeah, I'm Jack Delamater. About 2 or 3 years ago now, I started selling different dream herbs because I saw that there were a lot of different ones were available online, but I couldn't find really a single business that focused on that as a specific niche. So before starting the business, I looked into the different herbs and I realized that there were so many more than what I originally thought. The first one that I knew was Calea zacatechichi. And that's probably the one that's most ubiquitous and that most people start off with. And in terms of getting started with dreaming and dream herbs, it was back when I was in high school and me and my friends would, have sleepovers and smoke a lot of weed, which means we weren't doing a ton of dreaming then. But then we started incorporating the Mexican dream herb, Calea zacatechichi, and we started mixing it in with the weed, and we would wake up and just tell each other the dreams that we had. And it was always such a cool experience. And it's really been a treat finding all these other herbs and what they do and the effect on the dreams and how they can sort of help promote understanding yourself, which I think is one of the most important things that people need right now in the world, or always in the world, but especially right now.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pro anything that helps people dream. So we're going to get into everything you have in your shop, all the dream herbs and what they do. But first I want to ask you a little bit about weed and dreaming. THC is known to suppress REM sleep, and a lot of people don't dream as much when they smoke weed. So how do you balance smoking weed and wanting to dream more?
I think one of the most, this isn't something that I could sell, but one of the biggest dream potentiators is if you smoke a lot of weed and then immediately stop. And I'm sure a lot of people have had that experience before when just stopping intentionally for that reason or for other reasons. But every time I, quit smoking, within the next couple weeks after that, I started having just fantastical dreams. And then if I combine that with dream herbs, then it takes it to a whole other level. I also want to say that it's definitely not necessary to use these herbs. And there's definitely a case to be made for, going through just the natural processes to do this. But I do think that everybody, should have autonomy to explore whatever experiences that they can, And I think the history of all these herbs is just so interesting that me personally, I just love trying out these different things and seeing the effects.
That's awesome. So out of all the dream herbs, which is your favorite?
Oh, I'd say as of recently, the African dream root. And there's 2 different African dream roots, and I'll talk about that more later. But the one I've been liking a lot is Silene Capensis. And I know you guys probably won't be able to see the video, but I started making these tinctures specifically with Silene Capensis root. It's just really cool. It's known to have more of like an emotional impact than other ones. And just like the sensory experience is a lot more immersive. And the fact that it's a tincture, at least in the way that I made it, it's just really convenient to just put a couple drops under your tongue before bed.
So how does it taste? Because I've tasted the root and it's really bitter. I still want to try it though.
Oh yeah, I'd say a lot of these things are bitter. You gotta make it through for the gains,
It's worth it for sure.
Totally. What would you say is your favorite?
It's hard to pick. I would say Blue Lotus tea has been like my go-to lately. I have that constant battle of like trying to smoke less weed so I can dream more. And a lot of times I'll mix things together in like a tea or even in a joint. So it's hard to say if it's the Mugwort or the Blue Lotus.
Totally. It is cool how, along with like, the obvious benefits and, the certain drawbacks of weed, it sort of can be used as like a modulator, for how much you want to dream. Like if you like smoke a couple nights in a row and then just stop, it's like, it's great.
Yeah, that's true. My dreams are so much more vivid and lucid when I'm having that tea break REM rebound dreams.
It's just great how many different herbs have so many different effects. A lot of people think about dream herbs as sort of a binary, either you dream more or less. but it really is like a whole class of different ones that sort of like increase the dimensions of your dream in different ways uniquely.
Yeah, I love that. Everything affects people differently, and every little dream herb and thing we put in our body affects us differently. So it's good to experiment. And I always tell people, don't rely on these things just to dream. You should have your own practice established. But where would I start if I'm looking to get into dream herbs? How do I know which right for me?
Yeah, well, if somebody starts from nothing, I would definitely recommend, doing the tried and true classics, like having a dream journal, doing dream checks until you get to a point that you can feel like you have a good grip on dreaming. And then once you get to that point and you want to experiment with dream herbs, if you do, I would say Calea, zacatechichi, and Blue Lotus are really good entry ones. They both increase vividness pretty easily, and also you can smoke both of them, which definitely appeals to some people. I will say that Calea, zacatechichi, you do not want to make a tea out of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I tried that before and it was disgusting.
It has layers of bitterness to it.
That one is a purely smokable one for me.
Totally. I mean, traditionally, and in the hardcore way, the shamans of Oaxaca would go in a cave and chug like multiple cups of the tea while simultaneously smoking it. So, I mean, you got to be really serious about it for that. But I mean, if you're trying to communicate with your ancestors, it's a small price to pay.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any cool personal dream experiences that you can share that have been a result of dream herbs?
Yeah. So at this point, I mean, the dreams that I like the most are, like visitation dreams of people who've I've known, and it's just always such a treat and so special, getting to see them, whether it's my grandma or my friends, and that's just always so special. But even if it doesn't have to do with that, it's just always filled with such insights. Some of my favorite dreams recently have to do with watching live musical performances from the crowd, knowing that every note is being created by my subconscious on the spot. And every time I wake up from that, it's just such a wonder, And it's like, damn, I wish I brought a dream recorder into my dream.
Wow, beautiful. I love hearing music in my dreams. I know I can never fully recreate it. I don't have the ability.
Right. It's sort of like the most ephemeral type of creativity. You know what I mean? Because it's not like you can just play something and record it, or write a poem and have it written down. It's like, it's just there for a second and then it's gone. It's sort of like concentrated consciousness.
So when you're exploring with dream herbs or oneirogens, do you have a certain ritual or intention or a certain process that you do when you use them? Or how do you set yourself up for success?
So if I'm using a dream herb, well, first of all, since I'm not, directly connected to a lot of the cultures that use these, I can't really like pretend and take part exactly in their practices. So it's sort of like everybody has their own sort of unique way of using it. And for me, I thank the plant. And then every time I'm specifically have intentions to use dream herbs and have a dream, I really try to lock into a meditation before falling asleep. And, think about what I might want or what insights I might want. But also it's cool to just wild card it and just see, whatever the hell happens. And then just, be left with the pieces in the morning and see what can be applied and what just sort of seems like brain noise.
Yeah, you got to be ready and prepared with your dream journal. And I always like to take note of like what I took exactly, just so I can record how it made me feel. And there's so many different ways to take one herb. Like I know you have the resin Blue Lotus and you have the tea and you have it grounded up. So how is it different based on the way you consume it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with, just like other sort of substances, depending on the way that you use it, smoking tends to be more, short lasting and immediately intense. And a tea is more long lasting. So I find that if I drink Blue Lotus tea, the dreams sort of last more into later into the night and morning, or at least the more intense part of it. But I find that earlier parts of the night when I'm smoking, that's when it has more of the effects.
Can we get into the history of some of this stuff?
So, I mean, obviously I'm not a historian or a scientist, but I'm really interested in this stuff and I've looked up what I can. So if I do have anything wrong, I definitely want a listener to call me out. Yeah, a lot of this is just so interesting. So yeah, do you want me to just roll through a couple different dream herbs?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Sweet. So the one we already talked about a little bit, blue lotus flower. That's a flower from ancient Egypt that was used both as a party drug and also a cultural symbolism for consciousness and enlightenment. It's also was used for orgies because it has like sensually aphrodisiac inducing effects too. So for blue lotus flower, I find that the dreams that I have with it tend to have more of like a tranquil vibe to it. It's sort of like, when you use it during the day without a direct intention for dreaming. It's very relaxing. It tends to reduce anxiety. And some of these other ones get pretty far out in your dreams, and it doesn't really guarantee more of a, happy dream necessarily. But blue lotus flower, I usually wake up from that feeling pretty calm and grateful. And also it tends to result in more sensual dreams as well, due to the reasons I said earlier. Yeah, I'm wondering how has your experience been with Blue Lotus?
I love it. It really helps me relax before bed. It doesn't get me like high or anything, but I definitely feel like dreamy and very relaxed and ready for bed. I notice when I smoke it, it has a stronger effects on my dreams. The tea is more of a longer lasting effect, and I usually like mix it up with mugwort and different flavors. I've been like perfecting different recipes to like get rid of the planty taste.
It also just generally helps with sleep pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's a good one, especially if you're, stopping smoking pot and you're having trouble sleeping. That can be a nice sub in to get a little bit of euphoria, but also sustain that clear head that a lot of people stop smoking to try to get.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that people have been using Blue Lotus for so long, like since ancient Egypt. Like, when did we stop caring about dreams so much?
Something about Western culture, I think, likes to forget about things that connect you to yourself.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to stay distracted. Blue lotus flower, it's so interesting because the compounds within it have so many different effects. Blue lotus contains aporphine and nuciferine, which they both work through dopamine, which can help cause those feelings of relaxation. It also has pretty strong anti-anxiety properties and also anti-psychotic properties as well, which is why if mixed with pot, it can lower the sort of like psychotic feelings that some people can get. And also it just feels very grounding, which is why a lot of people use it for meditation. I really like the resin. You can almost think of it like the hash of blue lotus flower. I like to mix it with wine a little bit, or you can just put it right underneath your tongue, just like a little pea-sized amount, and let it dissolve there. And then you just feel nice and relaxed before bed. You can also mix the resin and roll it around in any other sort of herb, whether it's like a benign herb like mullein or something like that, or you can mix it with like mugwort if you want to get the double effect.
Okay, and next up we have African dream root. What about that?
Yeah, so there's two different African dream roots that sometimes get confused with each other. One of them is named Synaptolepis kirkii, and another one is Silene Capensis. Both were used by the Zulu South African tribes, and Silene Capensis was more emphasized with the Xhosa South African tribe. Like a lot of these dream herbs have a lot in common when it comes to vividness and recall, but each one of them has, slightly different emphasis on like different aspects of how it affects the dreams. So it really is like a different worlds of how you can affect them and see, what sort of experiences you can have there. With Synaptolepis kirkii, it generally seems to be pretty intense dreams that you wake up and you're like, whoa, I find that there's more like precision in the dreams. It's known to be more precise in terms of like what's going on in it. Like I've had dreams with Synaptolepis kirkii that tend to be like I see like machines and I can like see the gears working specifically in it. It's just like very, very precise in how it works. And it also a lot of the herbs increase lucidity through increasing vividness, but some of them, including the root, sort of they tend to increase the lucidity like directly in like the sense of dream awareness. So that's really cool. So Silene Capensis, the other African dream root, that one tends to be deeply emotional. And that's the one I was talking about earlier with the tincture that I made. That one tends to manifest more like visitation type dreams. it's more detailed, and it tends to just have more personalized insight, which can really, help with exploring the subconscious and getting little nuggets of wisdom from yourself. I really like both of those. The Silene Capensis, that one is used. There's a couple of ways to do it. You can just sort of chew on the root as one way. It's the easiest. Another way is to grind it up and mix it with water and then shake it. And then it makes a foam. And then you slurp up the foam that comes from the top. And you do that a couple times. You shake it until you feel, what they say is until you feel satiated from the foam, and you will know.
Nice. I'll have to try that. Usually I'll just chew on the root in the morning for a bit until it's kind of soft and it tastes nasty, and then I just spit it out.
It's one way to do it for sure. And then the Synaptolepis kirkii, I'm not so sure how to use the root directly. I'm sure that chewing could have some effect there. I offer that one as a powder form. So how I use that one is I take about 0.5 gram to 1 gram and mix it with water and then drink it before bed. Yeah, some of these work more acutely. In others, it takes a few days of using them in order to really start seeing effects. And I find that the dream root and the dream bean are more in that category.
So more of like a build-up effect. Okay, cool.
Yeah, totally.
So speaking of the bean, what do we do with that? Because I have quite a lot of the whole beans that I got from you. And frankly, I don't really fully know what to do with them.
Yeah, I probably could have given you some more information on that one. So some people, they roast it in like their oven and then they chew it and just like literally eat it. How I like to do it is I, use a mortar and pestle and break it up, and then you can actually smoke it once it's more of a powder form. You can like layer it on top of some herbs of your choice, and that works pretty well. And once it's powdered, of course, you can also mix it in with water or tea or something like that. And that's one of the ones that has the buildup effect. So if you don't feel these the first time or notice much of an impact, it's just sort of one piece of the puzzle. It plays into and works with your patterns and your habits when it comes to, dream journals and reality checks and stuff like that. But once you get there, you'll find that it has really cool effects on top of that.
That's true. I never want people to like think that they get so frustrated with like trying to lucid dream that they have to depend on like supplements or anything. Like it should be just an additional.
Totally. I think doing it naturally really is like the best foundation for it. And then anything beyond that really is optional for those who want to do it.
Yeah.
But generally, I think it's better to depend on your own mind and your own habits than it is to depend on anything external. Because really, we have everything in here,
Yeah, everything in moderation. It's really important to keep balance and keep track of everything without thinking that you depend on it.
Totally.
Yeah, I also have like the full bean, and I kind of want to like drill a hole in it and make like a little bowl out of it or something.
Oh, that would be so cool. The dream beans also, people make different jewelry out of them.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I could do that too. I thought about it.
Yeah, totally. And even just having that with you, could affect an intention and help you there.
Yeah, that's true. I've always believed that with dream herbs, especially like the energy and the fragrances, it could still affect your dreams. If you smell it, it could make its way into like your sensory perception. And just having it around you could already start to increase your dream awareness, even if you don't like ingest it.
Totally. And also a lot of the science on this, like we haven't really locked it all down because we don't really know the science of dreams in the first place. So it's, it would be an impossible task to know how different things modulate that. But we have certain clues as to what compounds might be, affecting this. Like, for example, Silene Capensis contains saponins, and I might be pronouncing a lot of these wrong, by the way. But I'm getting the letters in the phonetic quality there. So saponins are sort of like a base of like, it's like soapy substances, basically. And traditionally, there's this big festival where people turn it into a paste and basically like cover themselves in it in like a multi-day thing, and everybody just sort of dreams together. So if anybody's interested, I suggest you look more into that because I'm sure other people could, explain that better than me.
Yeah, I need to go to this dream festival.
Yeah, right. Imagine bringing weed to the festival and people would be like, that's
not allowed here.
That's the opposite of what we're trying to do here. And then Synaptolepis kirkii, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but there's a compound, if anybody's curious and wants to look it up, 2-methoxy-3-isobutyl pyrazine. Yeah, a bit of a mouthful there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to, science sort of catching up with how all this works. Because people always, like cultures for thousands of years, just have an idea of what plants do what. And then lo and behold, when we, study it and isolate these compounds, it makes sense and it works.
Yeah, the earth is so magical. I'm really excited for science to catch up with not only dreams, but just plant medicine in general. I'm an advocate for that.
Yeah. And I mean, so many medicines originally are isolated from plants, which is another, one of the many reasons why preserving the environment is so important. Because who knows, like certain reef plants in the ocean could contain like a cure to some cancers or something like that. And we just don't know. So a lot of things becoming extinct, we could be losing medical opportunities there as well. And that's probably even more important than psychoactive qualities. That's cool too.
Yeah, whether you're doing it for fun or for healing, there's a dream herb for that. So let's get into the more psychoactive ones. You have morning glory and Hawaiian woodrose seeds. So tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, so I guess now we're getting into the more active ones here. I've expanded a little bit to herbs that aren't specifically for dreaming, but just also, help with subconscious exploration and have some sort of psychoactive qualities. So two of these, Hawaiian Baby Woodrose seeds and Morning Glory seeds, they both contain the compound LSA, which is structurally very similar to LSD, and they are both entirely legal. So they are known to be sort of like a more body-ish version of classical psychedelics. And they also are known to, compared to LSD, like if you get into a meditation, it's easier to sort of experience like journeys, you know what I mean? And just have like almost waking lucid dreams, which is a really cool experience as opposed to other compounds. So yeah, both of these contain LSA. You definitely want to look up the doses of them to figure out what you're doing. And also, they are known to cause more nausea and a body load than other psychoactives. But there are ways to counteract this. One of them is making like a tincture or water extract of it. And you can do that by crushing it up with a mortar and pestle or whatever you want. And then you mix it with water and then leave it in the fridge. Leave it in the fridge for like 2 to 4 hours. Well, you want to put tinfoil over it because light can, affect and sort of degrade certain lysergic compounds. So then when you take it out, the thing that really helps is you mix crushed up clove of garlic into it. And that is known to sort of neutralize some of the more nausea creating compounds that are in there. And then after that, you just strain it out through a strainer, like a paper towel or something like that. And then you drink the liquid. And then it tends to be a much less of a body load and more effective. So you can focus less on how your body feels and what's going on in your mind. I find that any sort of psychedelic things with psychedelic qualities, that they do sort of affect dreams in different ways, even if not, but made by God directly for that.
Yeah, that's true. Anything that affects your consciousness is probably going to impact dreams. Also, question, for the seeds, is it light sensitive by itself or only when you do the little extraction thing?
Only once you extract it. The seeds, because of the outer casing, it's safe from light. And a lot of people, that's just like the way to do it to ensure there's no nausea. Online on some subreddits, people people like think that that's like a cop out, Yeah, some people just throw it in their mouth and chew it,
Yeah.
But it is important to know there's very different dosing between both of those. And for Hawaiian Baby Woodrose, that would be between like 3 and like 7 seeds. Definitely look it up to clarify. But for Morning Glory, it'll be like 50 to 200 or more seeds, and those are much, much smaller. So generally, you would weigh those in a cup. But with Hawaiian Baby Woodrose, you just need a couple. But ultimately, it's a very similar experience.
Nice. I will definitely report back when I try those because I have some that I've been wanting to test out. Okay, let's circle back to some more basic dream herbs because there's still a few that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
So we talked about Calea Z and Blue Lotus. I also want to talk about Mugwort a little bit because it has so many uses and benefits even outside of the dream industry. It has a lot of different spiritual and healing properties.
Right. Yeah, mugwort's just a really nice plant tool to have around for tea or for smoking. There's a lot of different uses. It was used traditionally for like magic and divination. People definitely use it in sort of like a new age magic type sense. Traditionally, it was also used for those reasons, and for increasing dreams and connecting with ancestors, as a lot of these different herbs are used for. That was a big part of lucid dreaming, in ancient cultures, to sort of gain wisdom from ancestors to move, your community forward. So mugwort contains thujone, which works with GABA, it increases relaxation. And thujone is also the same compound that is in wormwood, which is known as the psychoactive component of absinthe. So it tends to be kind of mild, and I find that the true effects of it really shine when you're in the hypnagogic phase in between going to sleep and being awake. If anybody's done the wild technique before, they know all the cool, trippy stuff that can even be kind of scary, happening in between. And when I use mugwort before going to bed and I enter that state, everything is just much more enhanced and vivid. Like the mental imageries that come up tend to be more vivid, and it becomes more vivid in a way that when you're at that stage of the wild technique, it's easier to like hop into one of the mental images and start into a lucid dream. And I just love that middle ground of the hypnagogic imagery, whether or not there's a herb used for it, because I find that that's when you just become really creative. You can sort of like process the certain things in your life that tend to be more triggering or difficult with more of a sense of resilience to it, because it's like part of your mind that gets anxious is more shut off at that time, and it's more just base awareness and creativity.
Yeah, mugwort is great. And hypnagogia is such a great place to explore, especially if you're not that good at lucid dreaming. There's so much that can come out of that. And I always get some cool ideas as I'm just halfway on the edge of like consciousness.
Totally. And it's relatively, easy to get to that state compared to into lucid dreams, because the main prerequisite is being able to get to a really calming place during meditation while keeping your awareness active. If you're laying down, and if you lay on your back, that definitely helps the most. And you just don't move your body and let your body fall asleep while you just remember to keep your mind awake. Slowly and surely you'll start to, experience sights and sounds as everything goes to sleep. And it can be tricky to not fall asleep and just like get caught up in mental imagery. But after a little bit of practicing, you can hold your awareness there. And then if you keep going, then it just gets crazy.
So what are your top favorite lucid dreaming techniques that you use?
Well, wild is just really intense, just like its name. I don't do that one too often. I would say that doing like dream checks really is like the most effective for me, because as we know, we just sort of repeat the same procedures that we do during the day in our dreams. And if we are really focused on it and do it, with intention during the day, then you'll do the same thing during your dreams and be like, whoa, this is a dream.
Yeah, a lot of my lucid dreams, maybe like 80% of them are also due to reality checks. So it's a great habit to get into. I tell everybody to start with that.
Totally. Last night, I actually had this wild dream where I was arguing with somebody. It like turned into a big argument. I was making a lot of rude side comments. And then all of a sudden we started salsa dancing. we just joined hands and started dancing, and I was like, this is crazy. It was almost like a carnival, type dream. And then somebody in the background just said, oh, this is a dream, just like an extra in the background. And then I looked at the guy I was dancing with, and we were just like, oh, of course this is a dream. This is far too silly to happen in real life, you know? And then after that, I didn't really lock into the lucidity, but it was just such like a hilarious moment of realization where I was like, oh, thank God, this is absurd.
That's hilarious. I wonder if that dude was like another lucid dreamer or you're just subconscious telling you it's a dream.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be crazy.
Okay, I have another question, not necessarily herb related, but speaking of shared dreaming, so we know that like science only understands so much, right, about this. And you were talking earlier about how, you have these visitation dreams where you like connect with people that have passed on. Where do you stand on the like science spirituality spectrum of like, oh, dreams are just in our heads versus the idea of being able to meet up with people and spirits and, outside of our minds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So first of all, I think a really important thing about it is that something being meaningful is meaningful regardless of, the nature of it. And we can really just, get so much from any sort of dream. And I think really this is a tricky question because it depends how expansive you view your inner mind as. Some people might know what I'm talking about here, but if the universe sort of exists as a reflection within all of our minds as a sort of like grand connectivity of cosmic consciousness. And I think that through that lens, there's not really a separation to even question. But generally, I don't have any answers. Like I think we'll probably find that one out when we die. But I definitely have had experiences where it just hasn't felt like dreams. And some of these visitation dreams are just so direct and so intense and realistic that there's just no reason for me to think that there's a cutoff at the end of my mind and into this transcendental realm that we don't even know what it is. It really is just like the fringes of conscious experience.
Yeah, obviously we don't know for sure until we die. Science just cannot prove this kind of thing. I mean, I honestly believe that there's so much that we cannot see beyond our physical reality. And we're more than our physical bodies, and like
Totally.
And when we pass on to the next phase of life, we still have our friends and family that we support from the other side. And that's why ancestral dreaming has been so huge in so many cultures for so long. And science does understand like epigenetics and being able to transfer things through generations, through the subconscious. But science needs tangible evidence in order to fully understand it. And this type of thing is just not very tangible yet.
And it's so hard for science to get there because first we'll have to understand what consciousness is, before we can understand what different components of consciousness are.
Yeah, we don't even have the tools to even measure that.
Recently, I had a visitation dream where a friend told me directly how I can reach them outside of dreams. And he just said, you can reach me with your thoughts. And that was just so, affirming because that's sort of what prayer is, and that's sort of what like everybody does anyways. So it was just like, yeah, that is probably the way to do it.
Yeah, it's like a little mental postcard that you send out into the universe and you address it to somebody specifically just by using your thoughts.
Exactly. Hopefully it doesn't go by USPS because there would be some delays there. Except for my business. It comes quick.
That's true. I'll give you that. You have some fast international shipping.
Got to throw in the plugs where I can.
I mean, go ahead, tell people like where they can find you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me at thedreamjoint.com. And also there is a promo code for listeners of this podcast. It is a Dream World. Yeah, all of these herbs there, you can get them in different qualities. I've looked around at different prices and I think that I really have offer a really good selection at a really good price there. And I recommend everyone to shop around and look, and if you want to land on my site, I think that's great.
Yeah, I fully support. I've been a happy customer for a long time, so I can vouch for that.
So there is another one that I added to the selection recently, which is a mix between dream and more like intense active. And you may have heard of it. It's the Mario mushroom, known as fly agaric or Amanita muscaria. And this one, there's a lot of misinformation about it. A lot of people are scared of it because it is a psychedelic mushroom, but it doesn't work through psilocybin. It works through something else known as muscimol, which is very intriguing because that works through GABA receptors, which are normally associated with relaxation. but it just does something else through it that creates really otherworldly dreams with fantastical elements. And if you're doing it for dreaming, I definitely recommend microdosing with it, like a small amount, like half a gram or less, because if you take more, it definitely can be really intense. So there are a couple things to know about it is that there's muscimol, which is one of the compounds, and then there's ibotenic acid, which does have some toxic effects to it. But if you decarboxylate it and put it in like the oven or heat it at a certain temperature, all of the ibotenic acid converts into muscimol, which makes it safe to use. And I actually took the Amanita Mascaria microdose last night, which is probably part of the reason why I had such a ridiculous dream of salsa dancing with an enemy. And it was just really, really fun, you know. And then there was another component of the dream that sort of reminded me that there was like something that I felt guilty about that I should tune into. I really woke up and had some clarity about it. If you use Amanita Mascaria, you sort of feel like you're tripping in your dream. Like you feel a little bit more intoxicated than usual with more of like just more fantastical elements, and the dreamscape could be more variable. And it also just tends to be really reflective and contemplative, just like some of the other ones as well. It's so weird how there's certain compounds that we know activate with certain receptors that we feel like we know what they do, but then it just blows a huge hole through it. Sort of like Salvia divinorum, how that the active compound salvinorin A works through the kappa opioid receptors. And, you know, opioid, which generally comes from different things that activate the opioid receptors, generally come from, you know, like opium and poppy plants and stuff like that. But salvia, for some reason, it binds to one of the sub neurotransmitters there, and it just creates a whole otherworldly, other dimensional experience. So that just goes to show how much we don't really understand what's going on in our brain. So it's sort of like exploring this stuff really is like riding a frontier of awareness. But at the same time, many people have been doing that for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's really important to know yourself and your tolerance for things, know your like inner psychological boundaries, and definitely do your own research. And I'm pretty comfortable exploring consciousness. Like I've done different meditations and psychedelics and the dream stuff. So I understand my own tolerance for consciousness exploration. But everybody's different. I stress that a lot. You know, some people can't smoke weed. Some people enjoy it. So same applies.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. I mean, I think that meditation is really the number one way to get comfortable with yourself and your mind. And if you don't really feel comfortable doing that and you're moving to some of these products, you're probably not going to have a great experience. If you feel uncomfortable with, you know, the base of your subconscious, then diving deeper into it would probably be a too much too soon type situation.
Yeah, it's really about getting to know yourself and your subconscious mind as well as your conscious mind. And I also tell people don't just rush into trying to become lucid. It's not just about lucid dreaming.
Totally. It's like some of the best jewels of life happen as a byproduct of, you know, connecting more with yourself. It's like people, you know, if you're like actively looking for a romantic partner, then it's probably going to be more forced and happen, you know, less soon than if you're, you know, living your life in the best way possible. Then things just sort of happen out of nowhere.
Yes, organic things are better in every sense of the word. So on another note, do you have any like closing thoughts or advice for the listeners that is on your heart to share today?
Oh, geez. I would say, I'd say follow your dreams. I'd say I love you all. We're all the same. We're all the same mind, and we should treat each other as such. Yeah. Also, I do have to shout out my own music here. I have an album coming out soon. And I have 3 albums that are already out. You can find me on Spotify and everywhere else under Jack Delamater. That's Delamater.
I love it. Your music is really good, by the way. Can I actually use your song as like an outro for this episode?
Yeah, if you pay me big. No, I'm just kidding. Of course you can.
I mean, I'll definitely include all your credits. Don't worry.
Sweet.
And if I make it big, we're all making it big because I'm supporting everybody. You're all coming with me.
Oh, totally. I really love what you do, Amina. Thank you so much for, having this resource for people. I think it, really makes a positive impact when people promote self-knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to like, give people all the resources and just talk to as many people as I can about all the different niches within dream industry. Like there's so many things within the niche itself.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more consistent with the content I put out there. I have promised to do like an episode every week for 2024, which doesn't seem hard, but life be lifing.
Yeah, I know that we've been talking about this for a year now.
Exactly. Yeah, but hey, I'm going to do my best to continue talking about dreams and supporting the people around me. So I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. I believe in you.
I believe in you too. Thanks for being such a good friend. I'm excited to post this episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Bye.
Better start the climb while you're still here.